a lot of earnings calls last week. Like a good round of, your EAs and your Ubisofts and everybody kind of talking about like, hey, here's what we're doing, here's how we did all this other stuff. But like there was kind of a running theme of everyone had to make a statement about NFTs because they have reached a level of interest that now shareholders are going to ask questions like, what's your NFT strategy? And so they all kind of got out there ahead of those questions and said, here's our NFT strategy. And predictably, EA and Ubisoft and Zynga, all three of them are like, yeah, man, we should make a bunch of money on this stuff if we can.
Square Enix also.
Square Enix, right, yes. Cool. And right? Awesome. Finally, God, finally getting some cool legitimacy in this space. And I guess I mostly just wanted to bring this up because as you think it through, none of these companies are actually incentivized to support any kind of decentralized anything, any kind of blockchain anything.
Yeah.
And this is earnings call talk to satisfy shareholder questions the same way shareholders used to ask, what are you doing about VR? What are you doing about mobile? What are you doing about esports? Like, so congratulations to NFT to rising to those levels.
Well, to your point, is that like the death knell where you're like, all right, hey, these 3D glasses, are we making them? Are we doing them? And then, that's it.
Right.
I hope.
Well, think about the number of hurdles that would have to be cleared for this to actually happen. And I saw one longtime game developer, David Lang, on Twitter, kind of acknowledging like, Apple's never going to let any of this shit on their fucking store.
Yeah.
And to that end, like Steam has already kind of gone against this stuff. I assume that I shouldn't assume, but I don't think that Sony and Microsoft would be super psyched. I don't think Nintendo would be super psyched to see this sort of game on their storefronts either. Games that are like having like trying to add a real world value to things. The same way Blizzard did with the Diablo 3 real money auction house that went so well. For the 6 months that existed.
Explain to me. Okay, let's role play for a second. Explain to me.
Back 3 school.
Yes, the most practical application of this technology with gaming. Like, explain to me why there's even a pilot light lit in this sort of conversation.
The pilot light is lit because there's just enough money and talk swirling around it right now that every company feels like they have to have something to say about it. But and you have Ubisoft saying that they made an investment in it. But if you actually try to like work out in your head what would the integration look like, it's a few different ways, right? So, but I'll here are the few different ways that I think it could work out, or that you could potentially go for with the technology.
Yeah, hypotheticals.
And then I will say why I don't think that actually that they would do it this way. It's a lot of stuff about digital ownership, and that's a very hot topic in gaming. And even before all this shit came along, the idea of used games and digital sales and all this other stuff has been kicking around for years and years and years and years. And so I think EA in particular has an interest with what they do with FIFA. You have a FIFA Ultimate Team sort of thing. That's people giving money to EA and EA giving something back that they can say has no value, but really to the hackers and players and all this other stuff that it has some value. What if they could attach real money to that and then get a cut every time someone sold a FIFA card to another player? I mean, it won't be called FIFA. Eventually they're going to drop the fucking license, right? But EA Football Ultimate Team.
For S11.
They're paying $1 billion for the FIFA name,
winningest
right?
11. There's been talk, and they've been petty in the way that they have not mentioned FIFA's name in their earnings call and all this other stuff. Like that naming rights thing is going to come up for review, and maybe they'll renew it, maybe they won't. It's
also
be able to
just
read that.
Not a great brand name ever, and especially right now, it's actually there's some more recent stuff. So nobody cares about FIFA. Nobody talks about FIFA in the Premier League. That's you know what I mean? Like it's like
it has like EA is doing more for FIFA than anyone else at this point, probably in terms of
100%. The word FIFA now to most people majority of people, even people who play football, is the games. It's not the organization. Yeah.
It's like Kleenex.
So you have a situation like that. So EA probably looks at this and goes like, okay, what if players could sell those FIFA Ultimate Team devices, the cards, virtual cards, to each other for real money? And what if we got a percentage off each one of those sales? So if those things just keep going up in value and the market gets hot and they're selling all over the place, much like the Steam marketplace where Valve gets a cut of every sale, what if EA got a cut of every sale? That's how it could work in terms of how you would do it with NFTs and on the blockchain. But also it's a reason why you wouldn't do it, because why would EA do it on the fucking blockchain? They already own enough infrastructure and enough payment backend and enough stuff to do all that shit themselves. So this is just them trying to say like, hey, if there's money there, we're going to find it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they don't have any reason, because they don't need to work with any other company. The interoperability, the open standard thing that people kind of keep throwing out when they talk about digital goods and rights transfers and stuff like that is this thing of just like, what if a sword you bought could be used in any video game? Which is not how any game developer is ever going to fucking operate in the history of the world. And it's just not going to, that doesn't work. Like those sorts of flights of fancy are coming from people that fucking don't know jack fuck about video games. They've never fucking made one. They're just coming to it from like, well, we made a bunch of money on mobile and what if we were early on this too, you know, whatever it is. So I think there's the digital goods like that, I think that's the one of the purest things you could look at, because I think that equates in a lot of one-to-one ways with what the NFT market is right now. But also, again, EA has zero incentive to do it on the blockchain. It just incurs a bunch of additional hassle that they don't need to do. Interest. They could take that money right now. They could flip not flip a switch, but they could develop that back end to sell those cards and take a cut of those sales any time they wanted to. But God, the last thing they want is like even more government fucking eyeballs on them, because now they're letting people sell that on some kind of openish market, whether it's on the blockchain or on the EA chain. They don't want to fuck with that. They want the money from it, but it's going to bring scrutiny to them at a whole new level.
That's what I cannot shake loose. Like I don't understand, like the spirit, right? The spirit of crypto and all that is this decentralized sort of currency, which acts in their worst interest as a capitalist organization.
There's no incentive for them to do that. It's not like the NFT as a brand or whatever is enough to be like, oh, this is how we have to do it this way. It's the only way we can make money. Like EA already has users. They already have players. They already have fan bases that would work in whatever system they set up. It doesn't need to be on the fucking blockchain unless they want to appease investors.
Yeah, what I think is the phrase NFT is slowly going to lose all of its original meaning. Just like I can't, nothing else really comes off the top of my head, but I'm sure there is a perfect analogy to like a thing that like hashtags, right? Like they served a very specific purpose. They meant a very specific thing in their inception, and then they just completely lost. They got repurposed as something else, and that is maybe what will survive.
Like organic groceries. It just doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah, or Frisbee, or Xerox. like those sorts of brands that just become like the term for the item. Like maybe NFT has a shot there, but like. And Zynga went a further step to say like, we're going to look to integrate. We're going to have games built entirely around play to earn, which is the term that they're throwing around for this sort of stuff.
Fuck.
And that's where you get into like,
fun.
yeah, right. Like
gold farming.
No, I'm not earning money. If I'm not farming WoW gold, then what am I doing?
Yeah.
And again, that's I think where the platform holders would maybe either want enough of a taste of it to not make it worth their while anymore, or say like, no, we don't want any part of this, because the larger this gets, the more government scrutiny is going to come down on top of it. I think I saw some of the IRS kind of reporting around
the infrastructure
these types
bill,
of digital asset holdings
there's if you've like something somewhere, is it over $10,000 worth of crypto, or NFT or any type of digital assets that you need to start filing. And
by the time the government gets done with this, it's going to look like money. You know, all the problems that people had with money, like the free ride will be over. The fucking like, here's our shadow money, and I bought bootleg Yeezys with Bitcoin on the fucking dark web. Like, those days are fucking over.
There's a really good Twitter thread that explains why that's a big deal. Is because like for the ones that are doing it as a straight up money laundering scam, it's like, yes, I can point to a transaction history that is like, look, these were sold for like $400,000 a pop. That means you should buy these, right? But if it's your own money, that's how people are tricking other people. It's like, hey, I go to my friend, I say, hey, here's $400,100. Buy this thing for $400,000. Keep the 100 as a service, and then there's a receipt on there on the blockchain because it can't be tracked, because it's decentralized. It just says like an anonymous person paid $400,000 for this thing. Now, if you have to report all of those, the government can more easily track the money laundering aspects of it.
Yeah, and all the all wallet mixing and all this other stuff. Like they'll catch up, I think, on that front.
Yes.
So the other use I would see for this is something again that I think is actually long overdue, but again something that you don't need the blockchain to do, and that's the ability to sell used digital games. The idea of just like, hey, I am playing. Battlefield 2042. I am done playing it. I am going to put it up on this marketplace and sell it. And the publisher of that game gets this percentage of it every time it sells, no matter what it sells for. Like, it's a case where like, oh, the minimum sale price you can set for this game is set by the publisher still. And they say it's $20.01, and you get the 1 cent because they get $20 every time. Like that sort of thing. About like, and so the idea of selling your digital entitlements to digital games is something that, God, I would feel like I was talking to someone at EA a fucking decade ago about, hey, this is something that's eventually going to happen. We just don't know like what form it's going to take. And there isn't really a lot of pressure for us to do it yet, but we kind of know that this is eventually going to come to this industry. And now it's colliding with this NFT hype in a way that you could see, oh, well, hey, what if every copy of, you see some people starting to theorize like, well, what if every copy of a game you bought was an NFT? It's like, okay, sure, you could, but EA already knows you own it. And in a case where it's a smaller publisher that doesn't have that huge back end, PlayStation knows you bought the PlayStation version of this game. Microsoft knows you bought this Xbox version of this game, and you can play Back 4 Blood here, and you can do this here. And like all that sort of stuff is already tracked for digital sales. There's no need to go on the blockchain unless you want to introduce a huge headache. And again, decentralize it in a way that like they don't want to do that. They want their cut every time, and they can get it directly. You don't need to go on the blockchain again, unless your investors are pressuring you so much to have some kind of solution for someone. Well, what's your crypto strategy? And you cave on it and go like, here it is. There's no reason for them to fucking go touch any of this shit.
But that's the thing. They'll just repackage it, right? They'll just like, they could even get away with calling it that. Who fucking cares?
Who cares? Right? Yeah. Words don't have meaning anymore. Call it the fucking blockchain. The fucking the EA blockchain auction fucking block. Put it up here, man.
Management, right? So it's not like
exactly.
There's nothing.
That's it.
But I hear what you're saying, because the problem is when you're on those investor calls, or like if there's any sort of strategy, they need to be like, it's the same way we talk about how like everyone's talked to everyone about having a merger, right? You have to have the conversation, even if you're not going to do anything. The conversation has to happen. There has to be a strategy, even if the strategy is, we did our research and we don't have it. We decided not to have a strategy. You have to have the initial rumblings of that, and so that's what a lot of this kind of feels like, where there's no plan, but
you'll see companies, and I think Ubisoft has like there's a company listed there that they've made a strategic investment in or something like that. Like you'll see a lot of strategic investments in companies that are trying to do play to earn and trying to build some kind of fucking crypto thing, and everyone will do their due diligence, and I bet on the other end of it we don't see a lot of action. You see a lot of maybe you see a lot of ideas that come out of those learnings, right? You're like, okay, we looked at all this stuff. We have no reason to do decentralized anything, but here's our new product for selling digital games, or here's our, and EA, remember, EA is the company that's been trying to get money off of used game sales since the 360 with their $10 online pass. Like they've been trying to crack that nut a billion different ways. And so this is the way that they finally get it. And the thing that will happen, I think, out of result of this is the NFT shit, the blockchain shit, the digital ownership, the concept of digital rights management and users being able to sell their stuff. that will gain just a bit more acceptance in a way that people will accept EA letting you sell your used games. Because at the end of the day, what the fuck is a used digital game? It's not like...
Well, it's like not top quality. The manual's scuffed. I've been in the sun too long.
It's missing a couple
scratch
packets.
on the disc and it loads a little slower. Like, there's no...
It's first run.
Like, the whole concept is nonsense. Other than giving players the ability to get a little bit of money back out of something. But again, those publishers are going to get their money one way or the other on that stuff. I think that's why you see all these key sites popping up, and some of those were scams, and you're seeing like the rise of more and more sites that are just like selling Steam games cheaper than Steam is. It's because as long as the publisher's getting theirs, who cares? They don't. So... yeah, that seems like where that stuff eventually ends up for me, but I don't know. It felt like the sky was falling there for a bit as one earnings call after another was full of people going like, "Oh yeah, we're really going to look into this shit," and then you realize like, no, I mean, of course they have to look into it because this is an earnings call and that's what you do.
And some lower level person is tasked with like figuring out the right language to make it seem like something is afoot in there and popping it in the presentation, right? Like,
yeah, it's just like, here's a slide that says like, we think it's a big deal. We're gonna look at it. I think the screenshot of the Discord client with like a wallet integration is actually way shittier than any of the earnings call stuff. And
well, they're getting a lot of blowback from that.
Yeah, a lot of people. Well, seems like a lot of people are talking about canceling Nitro because the CEO of Discord was out there posting screenshots about like, man, what if it was a Web3 app or whatever? And
I mean, all I fucking get in Discord is goddamn like fake NFT server invites. I don't know how.
You are on some bad servers because I don't get any of that.
What do I do? I'm not on anything bad. I'm on a Giant Bomb Discord, and that's
there you go.
Really,
well,
you're on the wrong one. You're on the other one.
Those gremlins,
by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, God damn it.
Yeah.
Moving on. Anyway, I gotta say, outside of the like environmental stuff and all that, like isn't this like the opposite of what the fucking internet was meant to be? Like, it was supposed to be about not owning anything, about like giving and fucking. It's like the idea that like commodification will like set us free is the most fucking stupid shit I have ever heard. And
it's the most backwards, like from where we started on this stuff about the information.
It's a whole
wants to be
other
free stuff.
conversation, but the whole my biggest problem with the whole metaverse thing is like, oh, it's going to create a thing where you, the user, can create anything. It's like, no, dog, that was the internet.
That's now.
Yeah.